The other thing is that we've been talking about a lot the last several years is the composition of today's wastewater. Maybe different pumps in applications that they previously weren't used in. Flushables really are not flushable. We are seeing a lot of discussion on what is in today's wastewater and the challenges on how to deal with that.
Hello and welcome to the Pumps and Systems podcast. Today we're speaking with Adam Stolberg, Executive Director of the Submersible Wastewater Pump Association, also known as SWPA, and David Williams, Director of Engineering at Liberty Pumps and President of SWPA. They're going to be talking to us about the outlook for the pumps industry in 2024, including trends, the impact of Build America, Buy America, supply chain issues, and much more. They'll also be telling us a little about the SWPA training being held in Chicago this April. So, without any further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome, Adam and Dave, to the Pumps and Systems podcast. I usually start by asking, how are you guys today? But Dave, I know you're not the best, but hopefully are doing okay.
I woke up a little under the weather, but we'll get through it.
And Adam, how are you doing?
I feel great.
That's wonderful. That's great. Just rub it in for Dave.
Perfect.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the outlook for 2024 for the industry. But before we get started on that, would you mind introducing yourself? So tell us a little about who you are and what you do and anything you think our listeners and viewers might want to know.
Okay, Adam, I'll let you go first.
Sure, Dave. Thanks. My name is Adam Stolberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Submersible Wastewater Pump Association, more informally known as SWPA. Our goal is to educate and train wastewater industry professionals. We've been doing it. We're now in our sixth decade of service. So thanks for having us, and we always appreciate the time and energy Pumps and Systems gives to SWPA. I'm also a member of your editorial advisory board.
Right.
And I'm Dave Williams, Director of Engineering at Liberty Pumps. I've been with Liberty leading product development and quality side of things for a little over 16 years. My first experience with SWPA was a newbie to the pump industry, where I took advantage of several training opportunities back when Adam's dad, Chuck, was running SWPA. We joined as a member, I think, 7 years ago as we were getting to the larger products. And I'm just started my second year as president of SWPA. So it's been a great evolution, a great organization to be a part of.
So we're going to be talking about the predictions that SWPA makes. So could you tell us a little more about this? Like, what exactly are these predictions? What kind of data do your members report on? Things like that.
Sure. Dave, you want me to take a shot at it and then you can fill in?
Sure.
Okay. So every year we send what's called our Industry Outlook Survey to our members, to our pump members, to our component manufacturer members, to our associate members, to our distributors, our reps, our municipalities. And we ask them a series of questions based on their company's outlook for certain products, for certain industry trends that they expect to develop in the coming year. On a quarterly basis, SWPA's members report shipment data by horsepower size in grinders, choppers, solids, and dry pit pumps. And then twice a year, these destinations are compiled, these shipment data are compiled into our destination reports, where all the pumps that we had reported on, our members now tell us what state, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Canada, Guam, other U.S. territories they go to. So part of our industry outlook is after we assemble all the data that we survey our members for, at our annual meeting, which happened this past December, we take their predictions for the coming year. We compare them we take last year's predictions for the coming year. We compare them to actual shipment and destination data that we had received through 3 quarters of this year, and we see how accurate our last year predictions were. We make similar predictions for the coming year, as well as we ask about what is going to affect our industry the most. What products are we expecting to emerge? What new technologies? Some of the most common answers on the technology and product side are always, or at least the last several years have been more use of variable frequency drives, more remote monitoring and maintenance from a remote standpoint. COVID obviously kicked that off into ultra high gear. And then we look at industry trends and other things like governmental regulations, BABA, premium efficiency motors, things like that. And we ask our members also what inputs, what outside factors do they expect will influence the marketplace. Obviously, as a submersible pump manufacturer, grinder pumps, sewage pumps, these are all tied to housing starts, the economy overall. We've talked about interest rates, inflation. So all of those exterior or external forces also have an effect on our industry. So that's what I look at from the executive director standpoint when I send these questions out and then compile all the data. Dave, you may want to speak to, how it, maybe what your company does with the data or how you use that industry outlook, or if there's different things that you report or feel more crucial than what I look at as an overall market trend.
Yeah, from a pump manufacturer standpoint, the data is very valuable, both knowing, what the industry is doing, but also how you're doing compared to the industry. And the number of pump manufacturers, we pretty much have the who's who of pump manufacturers in US and North America. So compiling that data, some people have a down year, some people have an up year. Representatives from the manufacturers, there's a lot of product management, a lot of, administrative management and sales team members. So we get a really good, overall picture when you combine all that data. There's some people who have a down year where the majority might have an up year, but it levels out over time. It averages out. The more data you get in, the more it averages out. And we're usually pretty good as far as what's going on.
So then what is the overall outlook for 2024 for, pumps and our whole industry?
Yeah, looking at it from both a manufacturer standpoint and a SWPA standpoint, from a lot of the conversations we had when we reviewed the outlook and, open floor conversations at the December annual meeting, I think everybody's cautiously optimistic. Last year, a lot of manufacturers were flat, up a little or down a little in categories. But a lot of that had to do with people burning off the COVID bank. When people couldn't get stuff 2 years ago, they ordered twice as much of it, and everybody was, flush with inventory. I think it looks like we've burned through most of that. Also the BABA funding and other incentives that were released a couple of years ago, that's finally starting to hit the streets. It took a while to figure it out. The government's been slow on setting the guidelines, but I think we have enough direction now where people can categorize their product as meets or doesn't. And stuff's through engineering, and stuff's going to start going in the ground this year. So I think there's a lot of that is positive. There's still an election year, and the global instability. There could always be challenges, but I think everybody's looking for a modestly up year.
I think that's real accurate, Dave. I think one of the things we talk about, obviously governmental programs, legislation. BABA is a very big topic for our industry. As Dave put out, part of our discussions were understanding the regulations, understanding what's required, understanding how to comply, and it was a little muddy. I think one of our presentations at one of our last meetings was, BABA requirements clear as mud. And we've tried to work through that. I think to Dave's point as well, we're seeing, I'm sure what we see as an entire organization, I would think is very similar to what Liberty is seeing in their specific areas, but we're seeing similar things. Supply chain problems are much better. We're not seeing as long delivery times, and as Dave put, when you have long delivery times, maybe you order more than you need, and it sits on a shelf until you need it because you're worried about it. We're seeing inflation coming down. We're seeing, elevated interest rates have really not impacted us too much. The other thing that we talk about at SWPA is repair and replace versus new products. We know we've got in our industry a very old infrastructure in most parts of the country. So what always comes up is, are we putting a Band-Aid on it? Are we repairing it? Or how many engineers and how many consulting engineering firms are actually writing new specs for entire new products, entire new systems. From our standpoint as a manufacturer, the real answer is it almost doesn't matter. You know, selling a pump and selling a VFD is selling a piece of equipment. Of course, we like modernization, we like improvements that allows our manufacturers and our members to showcase their latest and greatest in terms of efficiency, impeller technology, things like that. But either way, we have a great demand for the products that our members are manufacturing.
Yeah, I think, adding to that, there's a lot of opportunity, to put improved technologies in, grinder pumps and chopper pumps. There's the offerings there tend to grow. The challenges related to low flow fixtures and the stuff that gets into the wastewater system that shouldn't. When people are having to unjam a pump station every 6 days, the payback on implementing newer technology drives a lot of people to just go through and upgrade their systems. It pays for itself pretty quick, especially with the labor rates that the world's seeing right now.
So you mentioned the Build America, Buy America, or BABA. So would you tell us a little bit about that? I know it's a complex subject, so go as deep or as shallow into it as you like. But could you tell us a little bit about that and its requirements?
Fire away, Dave.
All right. Build Back America, Buy America. As it came out, we're going into year 2 of after hearing about it, and there was a lot of confusion about what it meant. It was it was basically, I think the low threshold is 55% of components for manufacturing a product must be produced in the U.S. And that's tough for a company that's vertically integrated. As the first letter of the law came out, if you're vertically integrated, you're in trouble because, you could add, you could make a $400 machine casting in one of your departments, and by the initial guidance, you couldn't count that. So it definitely, was a challenge for manufacturers to understand. It didn't make sense. And I know there were a lot of, industry organizations that spent time working with the players in the government, and the BABA responsibility. I think it actually bounced through different departments a couple times, and some resources changed. But the latest guidance that we've finally gotten late in the year, if you're really manufacturing components, you can catch that. You still can't, the value add related to actual assembly of the product can't be counted. But components of that product that you manufacture within the site can be, so it helped things. And I think, I know, we're in a good place with it because we focused on trying to be domestic wherever we can on products. And I think a lot of manufacturers, work to resource castings to bring things in, after the pipelines ran dry. So, there are some challenges, some components that just aren't available in the US. So there's manufacturers that are working through those things. But we'll get there. But it's good that the dollars, I don't know if you can still call it stimulus if it takes 2 years to to hit the books. But we're in a position to, and I think a lot of the members are in a position to be there to take advantage of the implementation.
Yeah, and one of the things, we're going to do as an organization too, we had Claudio, who's the president of WEMA, at our annual meeting talking about the legislation and the changes and almost the ongoing changes to make sure that we were and our members were as up to date as possible. Claudio is going to put together a synopsis that he and I are going to author, understanding Build America, Buy America, requirements, opportunities, etc. And we'll post that on the SWPA website probably the beginning of March.
Oh, great. That'll be a really, really handy resource.
We think so. As long as the regulation doesn't keep changing.
I mean, you never know, do you? So you might have to keep putting addendums in it, but
okay, we're used to it.
Let's shift over to talking about industry demand. So what are some of the key factors driving industry demand?
Well,
I can
go ahead. I mean, I can talk from SWPA standpoint. You can talk from what you see as Liberty. We can talk both, whatever works for you.
We'll start with your overview, and then you'll probably cover everything and won't even need me.
Sure. So there's a couple things that drive demand. First of all, we in our world, in our pumping world, you don't write a specification, drop some equipment in the ground, and get it paid for and done in a matter of days. These processes take months and sometimes even years. So we report on this all the time. we know that our industry and our demand for our products lags the general economy by about 15 to 18 months. So heaven forbid we were to enter a recession tomorrow, our manufacturers still have some, some gas in that tank before they still have to worry about it. Obviously, as we talked about, factors like the economy, factors like housing starts, those are factors that drive our demand. On a very general level, we've talked about aging infrastructure. That drives our demand. Now, whether it's repair and replacement or new specifications, either way, there's a demand for our equipment. And then technology. Technology changes also has a demand on some of our control products, our members' control products, and even the design of some of the equipment, the impeller designs, the pumps, the premium efficiency. And obviously, that all has to calculate the additional cost of that piece of equipment versus the energy savings and the payback period. But I think our demands that we talk about in our industry outlook every year is general economy overall, housing starts, repair and replacement versus new jobs, and then just general overall changes in technology. Those would probably be our top four.
Yeah, just to add to that from a product standpoint, one of the things that we've seen huge growth in is grinder pumps. A lot of the volume is at the lower horsepower level. A lot of that's driven by, the septic systems and stuff that were put in the 50s and 60s were failing. A lot of those lakes were developed at that time. And when they get to the point of needing to do something, they won't let them put a septic system back there. So they'll go through with projects where you may be a project for 700, 700 grinder packages, implementing a low pressure sewer. A lot of the construction, all the high ground is built on, so when you go to build a cul-de-sac, in a lower part of town, you have to go to the pressure sewer. So even though the economy might not be doing great, some of this stuff still moves on. Energy efficiency, like I said, that drives some of it. And really, people can ignore when one pump, throws a C fail, but when the second pump in a duplex shuts down at a shopping mall, people have no choice but to cut the check for whatever pump they can get, that day. So, our industry stuff always runs downhill. So it's not a day where you're not going to get orders for stuff. It just, the kind of product shifts around depending on what the weather's like. The other thing, the smaller pump world, which really isn't the swap realm, January was just crazy with the storms that went up the East Coast. So, there's days when it's rainy like that, you don't sell a lot of construction related stuff, but the sump pumps and things like that go crazy. So a lot of it's beyond our control, but you just got to be ready to pivot.
Yeah, it hadn't occurred to me that weather would affect it so much, but of course it does.
Especially with a lot of manufacturers, a lot of distributors don't hold a lot of stock. And, when they're used to manufacturers that are shipping next day, it literally is dynamic. Monday's weather just determines, what's being ordered on Tuesday and Wednesday.
My next question has to do with the marketplace in general. So what do you think are the key changes or factors that are going to be influencing the marketplace in 2024?
We asked the same question. That's one of the questions that we ask in our Outlook survey. I don't know if you've seen that and you pulled that from that. That's great. The most popular answer we got is changes in technology, remote monitoring. It's a lot easier to see what an alarm is being created by, how to address it, how to reset it remotely than getting in the truck and going to the site. So we certainly see technology. The other thing is that we've been talking about a lot the last several years is the composition of today's wastewater. As David started talking about different pumps and maybe different pumps in applications that they previously weren't used in. Flushables really are not flushable. So we are seeing a lot of discussion on what is in today's wastewater and the challenges on how to deal with that. We actually at our annual meeting had a local municipal operator, a director of public works, and we talked about everything going back from spring of 2020 when all of a sudden people started working at home, were cities really nervous about what that was going to do to the collection system, how much time they're down, what they're pulling out of their systems, and what we can do as manufacturers We can't tell someone, hey, put the shiny side of the wipe up down, because when it hits the system and goes through the impeller, it handles it much better. So technology is a factor. Composition of today's wastewater is a factor. This year we talked about the election. Any election year always leads a lot up in the air in terms of future legislation, funding, etc. And obviously, this being an election year, and certainly passionate on both sides of the aisle, we'll see what happens there.
Pretty much reiterate what you said. There's some big factors at play. The elections, the many supply chain things. If certain parts of the industry get shut down, if you don't have one component, it can slow jobs down. There are some challenges, and interest rates are big with construction. A lot of the bigger pumps that maybe go into new commercial or municipal projects. Sometimes interest rate drives that quite a bit. People for a long time were used to free money, and now the bill gets a lot steeper if you're paying over time.
So finally, let's talk a little more about SWPA and some of the training that it offers. So how does it do that? And is there any training coming up soon that our listeners and viewers might want to know about possibly?
Tom, it's funny you should ask that. So the heart and soul of our training is once a year, we run a 2-day, pretty intensive training program in Chicago. This year it's coming up April 16th and 17th. We split the day between pump and pumping applications and what we call the controls side. Everything from Controls 101 that starts the day all the way through variable frequency drive SCADA systems, things like that. We've been doing this training for about 25 years. At the end of each training, we do a survey to everybody who attends. And while the training is designed to be relatively basic with some higher level courses, what we call our 200 level courses intermixed into those 2 days, we've been getting a lot of requests for more hands-on, more troubleshooting, more problem solving. So what we've done is our executive committee, our technical committee at our last meeting, we kind of revamped the training so that day one, we still have a couple kickoff programs. Everything we do in training focuses on the systems approach. It's not just the pump, it's not just the basin, it's not just the control side. Everything needs to work with each other to achieve maximum efficiency. So we have a little discussion on the systems approach. Dave himself actually talks about safety and some other key components of the systems approach. And then this year we're going into 6 hands-on small group training sessions, pumps, controls, valves, the whole first day. And then the second day, we're going to break it out into more traditional lecture classroom style, cavitation, air entrainment, Controls 101, a whole bunch of stuff that's obviously on our website. We get 70, 80 people to that. It is presented by SWPA manufacturer members. What's really amazing about our training is in a room full of competitors, nobody is promoting their individual products. We're promoting what's good for the industry. And like I said, a room full of competitors, everybody gets along. Everybody understands that it's a public service, not an opportunity to promote Liberty or Sulzer or Flight or whatever it is. And then we also have, which evolved from COVID, we've taken about 20 of those PowerPoint presentations, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, and we've put them with Pumps and Systems help into an on-demand library. And SWPA offers an educational membership, which can be standalone if you're not a SWPA member, or an enhancement or an addition to your SWPA membership. And for one annual price, you get a code for your entire company. And everybody in the company can go on and view these webinars, submit certificates of a completion, which you can, then use for professional development hours or CEUs. We're going to add probably 4 or 5 courses to that library in 2024. So we try and have a little bit of something for everybody, and we try and make our programs complementary so that if you attend the live training, you know what? The online is still good to fill in. The online is still good if you have a few new hires. Dave tells me all the time, we hired some new people. It's more cost effective for us to send them to the training or point them to the on-demand. And certainly if it's, one price for a company and you've got 30, 40, 50, 100 people using it, the cost per class and per credit hour, gets really, really inexpensive. And we're pretty proud of our training. Our experts do a good job. Our technical committee reviews all the presentations, at our spring meeting every year, whether it's updating them or creating new content. So we're excited about our training coming up in April.
Yeah, I'm excited about it also because I will actually get to be there for the first time.
Right.
It should be interesting.
Which class are you teaching?
I haven't decided yet. I have, so many possibilities that I have to think about it. So.
We'll give them an easy one, Dave.
Yeah, and not just the official training, but just the networking. Over the 10 plus years I've been available for SWPA. The first meeting I showed up, I was a relatively newbie to the industry, and some of the senior SWPA members took me to dinner, and it's a point now where I will know who I'm having dinner with the night I hit town. And they're arch nemesis, but you're also texting level relationships, and you talk about struggles you're having, learn stuff, and just great friendship, and everybody's there. When you walk in, the weapons go down, and everybody's there to make it better.
Agreed.
So it's a great organization.
Yeah, sounds like
and Carol does a wonderful job making sure everybody gets great lunches. So
too much. Too much.
Right.
Yeah. Food is always number one in my mind, so that's good to know.
Tell that to the poor guy who has to make the presentation after lunch.
Oh no.
Everybody's ready to fall asleep.
All right. Well, so before we wrap things up for this episode, is there anything else you would like to add or any final information you'd like to share?
I think the biggest thing is just reiterating, April 16th and 17th, Chicago. It's at the, our unofficial headquarters in Rosemont. It's a 10-minute shuttle ride from O'Hare, and just a lot of great networking. And this year's gonna be a lot of hands-on stuff. We're gonna be taking pumps apart and messing with control panels, and then helping educate new people to the industry.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We've had a tremendous response on registrations already. I think everyone really is screaming for these hands-on training, which is nice. And certainly it would be wrong of me not to thank Pumps and Systems for all their support over the years. They are a co-sponsor of our live training. They are instrumental in our on-demand programming, where it's kind of a combination of our program and their technical expertise, putting all these things online, doing things like today's podcast. So we certainly want to thank, Pumps and Systems and the whole team at Cahaba Media for all they've done with and for SWPA over probably 25 years. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for all that you do, and of course for appearing on the podcast today.
Our pleasure. Anytime.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you in April.
Yep, see you in April. Get ready for my class. It's going to be a good one.
We'll let you know what you're lecturing on.
Okay. All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Huge thanks to Adam and Dave for taking the time to speak with us today about SWPA and the industry outlook for 2024. If you're listening to the podcast and would like the chance to watch it, head over to the Pumps and Systems YouTube channel to see the full video version. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and we will see you next time.